One other thing I wanted to talk about this evening is I see a lot of people talk about spiritual warfare. And so I want everyone to realize that reality is set up perfectly to get you to remember God and remember that a majority of the reason why the world is the way it is because we believe that this is how it should be. So our beliefs dictate how reality operates. So when we have grown up in homes disconnected from our true state, we have essentially created belief systems of how to operate because we've been disconnected from a higher order of love. This disconnection creates void in the soul because the ego feels disconnected from itself and is operating without feeling. And so because of this disconnection, it creates negative behavioral patterns to try to feel something. When you remember God and you remember that feeling of God inside of you, and then you do the inner work to hold that feeling consistently, you realize that all of the behavioral patterns in society and that people are choosing to act out and believe are real are silly and insane. And so then you realize that your power is you actually can shift the entire world to a new state by believing it's possible because you're being shown internally a higher way of living. And over time, this strengthens. So then other people, when they meet you or are in your presence, they remember that there's a higher path above believing in these negative ways that people operate. And this naturally clears people's minds because a lot of people act out behaviors in their mind that are not really them, but they're so disconnected and unconscious at the time when they're doing it that they don't realize they're not all of their thoughts. And when religion is sitting there telling people they're sinners and people are identifying with that behavioral pattern, then humanity creates this victim loop where they don't realize that they have power to override their thoughts with a higher dimensional way of being. So a lot of negative things happen in the world because you believe that they're going to happen or that that's the way reality is supposed to be. When you realize your power is inside of you and that you can actually override all of the belief systems and receive new intelligence of new belief systems, or they're not technically new, but they operate from a higher way of being, you can shift reality for everyone. And then that's how we completely shift this world to a new state. But first you have to actually believe it's possible. And so you might go through periods of testing this out. Now, this doesn't mean you go through life being ignorant. As you start to remember higher ways of being, it's very obvious what is not in alignment with a higher dimensional way of being. And so you have to acknowledge reality and acknowledge the way that people are operating as a lower form of consciousness that you've now outgrown. And when you do it in a way that doesn't necessarily create negativity, but you understand it from a view of love and you understand why it occurred, then you stop identifying with it and you don't participate in it. So I've learned that the only way to really let go of things in this world and still be able to exist in it, having faith that it will shift to a better state, is to really love all aspects of yourself through the process, because whether you like it or not, you're going to constantly be exposed to people who are mirroring those previous levels of awareness that you used to be. And when you've gone through the journey of loving those versions of you, you won't feel anything towards those people. They don't have any hold over you. And you have compassion for them while still having boundaries. And this takes practice and just awareness and trial and error. But that's, I believe personally, is kind of the best way to be able to hold a higher state, because I've tried all the other ways, and like fear and obedience and all of that doesn't actually work. Like, you have to actually believe in everything you're being shown, and also believe that you deserve it and are worthy of it, and that this world was never a part of you. It was just kind of a practice round for you to remember your true state. And I think that there is a path where there's always going to be some sort of opposition, but the level of opposition changes as your awareness changes when you go up in level. So, once again, this is all bringing back you realizing your power and really recognizing that a lot of the world is the way it is because we believed that this was what was okay. And so there's a lot of emotion that you have to go through to process that in order to be able to hold the higher dimension. But once you kind of get through the emotional aspect, you hold it because you've already gone through the layers of emotion that are attached to each level of awareness. But I'm just wanted to do this video because I feel like there's people out there who have some truth and they have a lot of followers, but they still promote this victim mindset, and it continues to feed distortion and separation. So anyone that hasn't fully comprehended that everyone's an extension of them, acting out different levels of awareness in reality, I would just be cognizant of fully accepting everything they're saying. But you're going to kind of figure it out on your own anyways. That's kind of the whole point, is you're going to have to test out different scenarios. But I just felt called to do a video on it.